Okay, sorry guys. This is Earth Science Homework Helper, Fideli's new packet. So you'll see that you have your worksheet for 29.1, and it wants you to fill out the circle. Okay, so original remains. So fossils are rarely the original unchanged remains of plants or animals. Most often, the original remains decay or decompose before rocks form around them. In rare cases, an organism is preserved in its entirety. Large woolly mammoths found frozen in permafrost in Siberia and Alaska are examples of original remains. So in box number 1, put woolly mammoths as your example. And then in the bottom of the paragraph, it says, original remains can be altered as minerals and surrounding sediment are deposited into the porous areas of an animal's heart. This happens with shells, as some dinosaur bones and teeth. Okay, so forget that. Let's see. So basically in number 1, we want to give the example that I said. And then also, it's an original unchanged remains of plants or animals. So let's do number 2. Some fossils form as remains are slowly replaced, molecule by molecule, by rock-forming minerals. This is the case with many fossil bones, teeth, and shells. On the bottom there it says an example is petrified wood, so put petrified wood in number 2. What this one is it's a copy. So the result is a copy of the original organism, okay? For number 3, we have molds and cast. So with molds and cast, what happens is the hard body parts of the animal or insect leaf becomes a fossil as the sediments become rock. If the fossil later dissolves out of the rock, a hollow depression in the rock called the mold results. So for mold, you're going to put a hollow depression in the rock. The mold shows the original shape and surface of the fossil. Minerals may then seep into the mold and fill it in. So when the mold gets filled in with minerals, it's a cast or a copy of the original fossil. So you could put minerals may then seep into the mold and fill it, forming a cast. Okay? Molds and casts of shellfish. So shellfish are a good example that you could put in there. Let's see. So number 5, carbonaceous films. Sometimes the only fossil traces a thin carbon film resembling a silhouette. So kind of maybe it's just the outside, okay, the outline of it. So on this one you could put silhouette, okay. The remains of plants or animals in sediment are affected by high temperatures of pressure. So you put high temperatures and pressure. And then these conditions cause the carbon compounds making up the tissue of animals and plants to undergo chemical changes. This carbonizing process results in a thin film of carbon that details the remains. Okay, so I would just put plants or animals as an example, okay? Because they didn't give a specific one. Okay, so actually that was number 5, huh? So let's go back to trace fossils. That's 4, okay? Often no part of a skeleton or plant survives as a fossil. However, other more indirect evidence of a life may be preserved as a trace fossil. Trace fossils include any impressions left in a rock by an animal. So this is an impression left in the rock. So kind of an indentation or like a stamped, well, not necessarily a stamp, because it's kind of like makes a groove in the rock, okay? So it says such as trails, footprints, tracks, burrows, and even bite marks. So on this one you could just put footprints for an example, okay? So for that one, so it's just creating an impression, and an example would be footprints, okay? So on this one, it says identify 2 ways in which remains may be preserved as fossils. So we just went over that. So you could pick any one of the 5 from the circle. Original remains, replaced remains, molds and casts, trace fossils, any of those for number 1. For 2, describe trace fossils and how paleontologists use them to make inferences about the past. So on page 649 of your textbook, under trace fossils, it says trace fossils include any impression left in a rock by an animal, such as trails, footprints, tracks, burrows, and even bite marks on fossils of trilobites. And what do scientists infer? They infer the existence of many animals from trace fossils. For example, scientists can learn about dinosaurs that lived in a particular area from footprints the animal left behind. Okay, so 3, compare and contrast. Explain how original remains, replaced remains, molds, and casts are similar and how they are different. So when you filled out that worksheet, this is basically just going over what you did. So original remains, or an organism is preserved in its entirety. So the whole thing is there, okay? And then replaced remains is a copy of the original organism. And then a mold is a depression, a hollow depression in the rock called a mold. When the mold gets filled in by minerals, it forms a cast, okay? So, and how are they different? Like the original remains is going to give more information because it has the entire animal or plant. But how are they all similar? They all give scientists information that they can use to learn about the animal or plant, okay? So this is 29.1. This is 29.2, so you could see your worksheet here. We'll go over this next. I'll go over this with you. And then we have 29.3 to look at. And then I would recommend, he's given you the fall final review to do. So instead of waiting to do all these, because this is just a little bit of them, I think there's like, I don't know how many there are, but there's like 80 or something, maybe 60, 80, something like that. So try to just do like every section, maybe do 5 or 10 questions so you don't have all these to do at the end, okay? All right, so work on 29.1, get that done, and then next will be 29.2, okay? And I'll put that up shortly. All right, talk to you guys later, okay?